Let me first talk about this machine I'm using. If you go back to Project 41, back where it all started, a lot of students downloaded this Windows 11 machine and they're using it, and that Windows 11 machine had a lot of problems. Certain things weren't installed very well, the UPX would not work from every directory, and it kept restarting every hour. So I got fed up with it. I made a new one last night or yesterday. So this is a new Windows 11 machine, and this one is activated, so it will not keep shutting down. And I got the path fixed and other things. I just noticed the firewall's turned on. There's always something. But anyway, I did a lot better than the previous one. So I recommend downloading this one and using it instead. If you're tired of the problems with this one, I know I got at least one student that keeps getting annoyed when it keeps resetting every hour and trashing your work. This one will not do that. So that's the one I just got here in my remote connection, which should be another window here. There, okay. And now it's full size, which I'm going to make it smaller. And that's pretty good. And I can fit it to that with this fit to window should be an option there. Fit to window, there we go. All right, so here's my Windows machine. All right, and it's got IDA Pro. They all have IDA Pro on them, the ones I made. So everything you need is already installed on here, and the malware is in a folder on the desktop, just like before.
IDA Pro is a paid, it's a proprietary.
It is, but there's a free version. They took one of the old versions and made it free. That's why you can only do 32-bit code. So, user interface telemetry, I have no idea. I'll just say OK. Then OK. All right. Then I agree to whatever, sure. OK. Now I'm ready. Now I can disassemble a file. And this is going to be a new file. And I'm going to go get to my instructions, which are here. I wanted lab0501.dil. OK. So I go to my desktop, where the malware is, and go in here, chapter 5, lab0501.dil. Okay, that's what I'm going to analyze, and now it's going to analyze it. And here's something important to understand about a disassembler. It has to guess about things, which is pretty disturbing, and I don't really understand that, but apparently it does. It makes assumptions. And you can write a file that will not disassemble correctly by injecting extra unnecessary bytes. And that will confuse the disassembler, which is very strange because the processor has to process it. So you would think the disassembler could understand anything the processor can understand, but that is not true in practice. You can make malicious files that will run on the processor, but they will not disassemble in IDA Pro. So it makes assumptions. What it generally makes assumptions is it assumes that the program was created by a compiler and not by someone writing assembly by hand. And therefore, it doesn't waste any space and makes other common assumptions. So anyway, that's what this is telling you. Is first it's going to ask me under what conditions. I just accept the defaults. But it's a portable executable, which is what it is. I'll just say OK. But that's why there's some things to adjust there. You can adjust how it guesses. And it takes some time, too. It's not immediately ready. Now, when it's ready, it'll fill in this colored bar. Remember, I said that blue is code written by the developer, and the yellow is constants, and there are other things. So here you start, you see this box, and this is not the code that was written by the developer. This is some kind of Windows code that has to do with starting it. And like I always have trouble getting from here down to the actual code that I want to look at, so I always start by going to strings. You can go Windows, strings, or maybe it's view strings. All right, let me go to my instructions. There's a strings menu somewhere. Well, first we're going to adjust the graph mode. Okay, so this graph mode, you notice, just shows no addresses or anything, which is pretty rude. So we're going to fix that in options. Go back to my instructions. Options general. Okay, options general. Okay. Now, I would like to show opcode bytes. I'm going to show up to 6 bytes, and I want to show the line prefixes. And I think that's it. Yep, okay, good. Then I say OK. Okay, now I get much more information. I get the code segment, the address, and here's the actual bytes of the instructions. So this is more helpful to me. All right, now the next thing I got to do is get to the actual code. All right. And I can get the text mode, by the way. This is graph mode, where it's putting in these supposedly helpful boxes, which I find a lot less helpful than they think I will. Spacebar gets you to this mode, where you just see the raw code and a few automatically generated comments. Spacebar should get me back to graph mode. So, all right, that you can get to text mode if you want it. Now, I'm going to find the import for get host by name. It's a Windows API call that does a DNS lookup. So I'm going to view open subview imports. So it's view open subviews imports. And by the way, there's strings. We'll get there later. Okay, so here I can see all these names. Now, I can sort by header and find get host by name. There are other ways to do it. Right now, they're in actual order of where these things are in memory. But I want to sort them by name, so I'll click this. Now it's sorted by name, but it's actually sorted by ASCII, so the lowercase letters are all after the uppercase letters, just to give you a headache. So if I want to find get host by name starting with a small g, I have to go way down past z. There, now I'm in the little characters, and there's an F. There it is, get host by name. Okay, now when I find it, I double click it and that will show me the function. So here I am, and generally this is true of everything in IDA Pro. If you double click something, it will show you another view of that. So here's a table showing me get host by name, and this is just some kind of lookup table that's going to forward me to a cross-reference somewhere. And that's if you hover over a cross-reference, it will show you a few lines of whatever that code points to. So this shows a location where it's calling this function, get host by name. Now I can also press Control X to see them all, and that's what I'm going to do. So I go up here and hover over the cross-reference, and now Control X. And this will show me all the places it's called. These are all the places where a DNS resolution is performed, and there's a lot of them, which is not surprising. DNS resolution is a pretty common activity. So the one I want is the one that's 1656 plus 101. 1656 plus 101, that one. That's the one I want. And that's the way to express the address. And I think I just want to double click it. Yep, double click it. All right. I got to get back here. There. Nope, I'm still not where I want to be. That's where I want to be. All right, let's get rid of this. All right. So that's the one I like. So I double click it. It'll take me to that call. So here I am seeing the function that made that call. All right. And all right, you're back in graph, the function appears. It loads an address. Now we can see what it's doing here. It's going to load and it's going to push something on the stack and then call this. So this is going to be a DNS name, and it's going to call this and it'll resolve it to an IP address. That's what's going on. That's what get host by name does.
So get host by name is a command.
It's a Windows API call to do DNS lookups. Yeah. So you pass it a domain name and it'll turn it into an IP address. All right. So on the first line of that function, it loads an address into register EAX, adds 13 to it. That's right. So here it loads an address, then it adds 13 to it, then it pushes it on the stack, and then it calls it. And you can see why. To help you, it shows you here what this address is. This address points to a string, and see it has some kind of comment here, and then it has a URL starting here. So that's why it adds 13 to skip this. It gets a pointer to the domain name starting here, which is going to be this plus this, probably .com or something. So you can see the domain name it's going to resolve. And so what I want to do is double click the offset, and it will now show me the pointer to the string. There's the offset. So when I double click that, now it's going to show me, here's the data section storing that. So this is a global variable, and here's what's there, the start of it. And I can now get to hex view. If I want to see the whole thing, it's only showing me the start of it here. I can move to hex view here. And now I'll see, down here it is. This is audio, here's the whole thing. Pick practicalmalwareanalysis.com with practical malware analysis spelled wrong. Probably an error when they made this fake malware, but anyway. So there you can see the actual data that's stored there. And this is just the beginning of how you'll find your way around in here. So now, I'm going to find code, I'm going to go to strings. I mentioned before, strings are very helpful. So just like we used them before, we used bin text to just read the strings in a file to see what it does. You can do that in IDA Pro. It's view, subview strings. Okay, so now you see all these strings, and most of these strings you see here are Windows API calls and such. These are API calls with these capital letters in each word and words rammed together.
Those are functions.
Those are API calls, they're functions. And that's what they are. They're Microsoft functions, which are API calls. And if somewhere in here we're going to find cmd/c. Now I think the way to do it is to sort it. Yep, we'll sort it. I'm looking for cmd.exe, and it's going to start with 2 backslashes. So if I sort by the string, it'll come probably after all the letters will be the special characters. So there we are. I think I see a backslash. Yep, I'm seeing backslashes. And a double backslash is going to be down lower, I think. So I think I'll just go down this way, a page at a time. All right. There's the end. And there's backslashes. And I'm not having any luck finding a double backslash this way, so I think I'm going to find some kind of find function. There's going to be edit find or something like that. Edit filter. Maybe right-click find. There's a find somewhere. But there's so many menus and options, it's hard to tell what's going on. Search, there we are, search.
Control F.
Maybe Control F would work. Anyway, I'll do //cmd. There, let's see if that works. And it did work, there it is. Okay, that's what I wanted to find, was this. This is executing a command, /c. This is opening a command prompt. So I want to find that. And I can double click it and then go to I to view A. So I double click it, and that gets me to the hex view. Now I go back to I to view A, and now I'm seeing the storage of it. This is storing a thing byte by byte. You're storing a string. That's what strings are. I notice I have cmd.exe, and here I have command.exe. And if you know your Windows history, this is the 32-bit Windows command shell, and this is the 16-bit MS-DOS command shell. So this is really old malware, intended to infect XP or maybe even MS-DOS. So now I'm going to go there and find the cross-references to it, which I get with by highlighting CMD and then doing Control X, and it shows me it's pushed onto the stack here. So I can double-click that, and that will take me to the code that actually uses it. And so now I can see this is the one that pushes cmd.exe, and this is the one that pushes command.exe. And up here, it calls get system directory and then compares it to something. And what it's doing, I think, is looking to see if the system directory is named either system or system32. In MS-DOS, it was system. In Windows 90, in later versions, it's system32. So it looks at that, compares it to system32. That's what this, and it tells you which one of these command shells to launch. So this is a bot that puts your machine under remote control. It makes some kind of call out to a command and control server using DNS, and now it gets commands from the other server, and it's executing them here in the appropriate command shell. And if you want to see what's going on, you can get an idea just by reading the readable text and scrolling back up here and looking for messages that come somewhere earlier here. And if you go back up here, pretty soon you'll find a sort of useful here, hi master. It's sending an information to the controller, showing it what kind of machine are under remote control. This is typical for what a bot does. It infects the machine, and then it sends something back to the command and control server saying, I am this kind of machine with this much memory, and now you can choose from a menu of things that you could do. And I think that might be all we're going to do here. Let's see. They find the hi master, and then, yep, if you go there, you'll find the information. If you double-click the hi master, you'll find where that code is stored, and here's more of the message. Welcome back. Are you enjoying today? Here's how much time you've had this remote shell session. That's what it gives. It gives you some information about the system that you're under control of. And this is standard bot software. So that's a start. And after that, you got some challenges, which I based on something I learned from a Malware Analysis European group that gave some workshops. Here's some crackbees. Let me just try doing some of these. I'll download just one of them and show you how it goes. There's one of them. I'm going to put it in downloads. That's on my, actually, I don't know how to get it to my remote desktop machine. I'm going to have just open this file on there. I don't know how to transfer a file over RDP. I'm going to close IDA. By the way, don't save. I don't want to save anything I've done. Normally you do, because you're going through it, you're labeling the names of routines and variables, and you might spend a month digging through something. So I expect you to want to save everything, but I'm not saving anything, so we're not doing anything that deep here. And I've got Firefox, so I should be able to load my page.
Of course, so this analysis can be replicated with the Audi debug.
Audi Debug doesn't have all these features. It only has some of them. But however, you can't run it in IDA Pro. So Audi Debug that's what it has. You can run it. IDA Pro does have some limited debugging capability, but it's pretty rudimentary. Yeah, and so now I go here, and 303, IDA Pro. Somewhere down here. Disassembly. There we go. Okay. And now, towards the bottom are the crack me's. These are classic things. So I'll do the first one, and then the others get more and more difficult. So, all right, here you go. So let me get the first one of these, crack me 121. All right, there it is. So I want to, this is in the downloads folder, so I want to open it in IDA. So I will open IDA Pro, okay. And now I'm going to make a new file, and that's going to be my downloads, crack me. Okay, so there it is. I'll just disassemble it, making the usual assumptions. It's going to say it was linked with debug information. I'll say, okay, that's fine. I don't care. Didn't find it. Okay, I don't care. Okay. All right, so I'm just getting the assembly code there. All right, so here I am, and this is what I warned you about. I see something useless. Theoretically, this is the entry point, which is something in Windows, but it's not helping me very much. So I want to see the real code. So the first thing I do is run it to see what it does. That's the simplest thing. And let me change my font to be bigger. Properties, font, make it much bigger. All right, now I'm going to go into downloads. All right, and I think I'll make it even bigger yet. It's still pretty small. Properties, font, bigger yet. There we go. All right, now I can do a directory, and there's this thing called crackme121. So I just want to run it and get this thing there. Okay, I run it, and it needs this stupid dill. Yeah, that tends to happen. Let me see if I had anything here about how to do it. Sometimes you can't run them. You have to download the dill. This is something very, very, very irritating about Windows software. When you compile it, it doesn't give you the library you need. You have to go install Microsoft C++ redistributable to run it. It's very common, very strange about Microsoft. Anyway.
Because it's borrowing library, no?
Well, yeah, I don't know, but you can actually put it on here. In fact, if I obeyed the instructions, you download this and put it in there too. That would fix it. This is one possible fix, so that should do it. All right. But there's some way to compile things on Windows so it doesn't do that, but I'm not skilled enough to do it. I have this problem a lot. Amateur developers often have this problem. Oh, and I'm still not on the right machine. So let me get to my IDA Pro here and bring down the dill. Okay, there's the dill you need. Okay, now I should be able to run it. Okay, now let's try running it again. Okay, now it runs, and it tells me I need to put in a password. So I put in the name of the program, and I put in a password, and then it tells me I'm fail. So it's a guessing game. There's a right password. But the only reason I did this is now you can see some messages it prints out. There's a usage message. So now I know what kind of strings are associated with the actual operation of that program. And that's what I wanted because I want to find the real code. So I do view, open subviews, strings. And now up here, fail, you found the password, and so on. So the fail message is part of the actual code. So I double click this. Now I can hit spacebar to get back to, now that takes me to where this data is stored. You found the password, congratulations. So here's fail, which I saw. So I'm going to point to the cross-reference and double click here. Double click here, there. I finally made it. Here's finally the code that runs. That's what I was trying to get to. This is the actual code that was written by the developer, instead of some junk that's part of the Windows operating system, which is what you see by default. So now I can just read this program and see what it does. Here, it defines some variables, and then it has some kind of if statement, comparing something to 2. What this is doing is looking at how many command line arguments there are. And if there are not 2, it's going to print the message saying you need to put in 2, usage, crack me password. So that's what this comparison is. This is seeing whether you put in two arguments. If you did put in two arguments, it goes here. Now it compares something to the fixed string top secret and has another if statement, and then it either says you found it or fail. So it's pretty obvious that this is the right password. It's going to compare something to that. It's going to push this to string 2, then it's going to compare something, test, EAX, DEAX, it's going to compare those two somehow. It's called you're calling the string comparison function here, which is the part of the C library. So it's going to compare these two things. This is something that came from the user on the stack. This is a fixed string, top secret. So I'm pretty sure the answer for this program is top secret. So if I put in top secret, then I win. So that's the point. By reading the code, you can break it. Now, you can also just do it with strings. There's various ways to do it. But anyway, these get harder and harder. There's a series of these, and you get flags by finding them. So that gives you a little more practice using IDAPRO to disassemble things. And you can use some of the other tools you've used, too. So that shows you a little bit of practice with a debugger, with a disassembler, I should say. And that's what I wanted to show you. So I'm going to stop this recording, and I'm going to see if there are